Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from in the world. Welcome to another High Vibe Conversation. I'm your host, 𝗔H𝗱𝗿𝗲𝗍, and today we've got an amazing guest, Andrea Sanchez, with us here today, and we're going to talk all about the evolution of experience. So, Andrea, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to High Vibe Conversations. I'm going to dive right in and say, what's your evolution of experience? Because I know there's a story behind that and like where that came from for you.
First of all, it's such an honor to be here. I love your show and just the aura and the energy of all of you. And evolution of experience, that is one good question. I feel like I'm still evolving. I don't think I will ever stop evolving. In fact, that's what keeps me going. I get this big pleasure of knowing that there's more things to learn in my lifetime. But I didn't think like that all the time. My experience started off as just out of always being a curious person, even as a child. And sometimes my curiosity got judged in a way that it would shut me back up, and it kind of made me retreat back into my shell. So I learned that the safest way to move through life is to stay within my shell and not really ask questions and just accept things as they are. What happened is I neglected from getting to know who I am, who I was able to become, and the gifts that I could offer to the world. I didn't awaken from this until recently, actually, about 10 years ago. And that was quite an epiphany because I had to get to know myself all over again. Who I thought Andrea was dictated by how others thought I should be and how I should act and what I should like and what my interests should be and what I'm good at was not really who I was happy to be. And it all started all over again. And sometimes the evolution of experience happens when you gain that self-awareness, when you don't evolve until you become self-aware. I thought I was evolving, but I was evolving in someone else's eyes. So getting to know myself has been an evolution, has been an experience. There's good days and there's bad days, but it's led me to wonderful opportunities, passion projects, and of course, being here with you all.
Wow, Andrea, that was such a complete answer. And I resonated with that on so many levels, from like feeling like I didn't have a voice and feeling like silenced when I was asking curious questions at a young age. For me, I have only started on this evolution maybe 3 years ago. And so I'm still new to it and still evolving and changing and learning as I think you mentioned, like you're still growing and learning too. And I don't think this ever stops, but like, it's kind of crazy, for lack of a better word, to think that we weren't evolving until we had this epiphany in our lives. Like, what were we doing until that point? I have no idea. Like, I can break it down and go back in time and look at it, but it's like we weren't really living until we had that awakening.
Yeah.
So I love what you're doing now to evolve and to bring that to other people. And is this what prompted you to like start your Worthy rally? Like, how does that come into play with like helping other people evolve and share their experiences?
So Worthy Rally is just one idea out of, I guess, the foundational thing that keeps me going, or this not thing, but nudge. I feel this strong nudge inside of me that I'm supposed to do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm following my hunches. I'm following my gut every single day when I wake up. And I just want to do my part to make the world a better place. That sounds very cliche, but if I can do anything to help others, not at least one person, to not go through life feeling that they're alone, that they don't matter. I want them to feel like they have a voice. I know how it feels not to have a voice. So everything that I do is inspired by that. So my worthy rallies for hope and kindness, which I do every month, which basically is a community safe space for people to share their voices and understand that who they are imperfectly is exactly who they are meant to be. So I think that's where that comes from. My root of really making sure everyone feels like they are worthy indeed, and they were born as they are for a reason.
And just so that everybody here knows, like, you've helped me amplify my voice, and I've shared at your rally, and that felt so powerful. I know Jenny and Linda were there when I shared, and Linda and Jenny have also both been speakers at your rally. Linda, Jenny, what's coming up for you guys when you think about how you've shared your stories with Andrea and her community, and sharing your experiences overall?
Yeah, I'm happy to go, and I'm so glad that you're here. I remember, I think speaking at your worthy rally was our worthy rally, right? was one of the first times that I spoke publicly, streaming to YouTube and LinkedIn. And for me, that was such an empowering moment to recognize and allow myself to have normal reactions to things, to share my story, and to fully experience the experience, because that's what we're talking about today, is that we evolve through the experience. And thing is, and most people who are tuning in, they know my story of being in a marriage with very narcissistic communication going on, which meant that I learned to hide and to not allow my experience to, to be. I learned to keep my voice silent, and so much of my healing happened when I started allowing myself to feel, to sit with my emotions, to listen to them, to listen to my experience. And I had a conversation on this today with two of the clients that I met today, like how healthy it is to be angry at times. How it teaches us, all of our emotions teach us something, and how our anger teaches us that there's a boundary somewhere that we feel have been crossed. And there's an area in our life where we want to reclaim our power. So I love this topic of the experience, because fully experiencing the experience and allowing all of our emotions and listening to what's coming in for us is teaching us, it's guiding us towards that next step. So thank you, Linda.
Yeah, I love your worthy rally, and it's so precious to be witness to stories of people that have never shared that particular part of them before. That's just such a blessing to be the witness. And when I was on the rally, I did know my story by that time, and it's still just so reinforcing to have others who want to know your story, who deeply listen to your story, who have profound comments and just feedback, so that you really know that you were heard. Not only heard, you were understood, like at that level of soul, if you will. So I really appreciate your worthy rally. My awakening happened when I just woke up and realized that it takes two people, and I can't do the work for the other partner. And so as I was stepping into divorce, I started reading Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I had been very much in the Christian community, and I was in a group of kind of an almost interfaith group, and was seen and was heard. And I just, like, one wake up call after another. initially I was like, well, I can't get divorced because I won't have insurance. And then the now husband lost his job, and it's like, oh, okay, well, there went that excuse. So it was kind of just one little spiritual breadcrumb after another. The biggest thing about getting divorced was the shame. And I was asked by a mental health professional friend, um, well, what would that mean to you? And I was able to just get my side of things figured out. And then they were great questions. So I had put them on the family computer. And then my friend actually helped me answer them. We just kind of connected soul to soul, and she was great. It would have taken me about a year to get all the answers out of myself. Anyways, I left it on the family computer, and my husband found them. He was so angry. He was just like, I found your divorce manifesto. And I've printed it in books now, and I call it my freedom manifesto. So it's actually in Stina's book too. Know when to leave. So yeah. So thank you, Andrea. Appreciate your work in the world for sure.
As we're like talking about our awakenings and our experiences, I'm having this moment where I'm like, I feel like I've awakened several times throughout my journey. I feel like I keep waking up and like peeling back more layers, and things that I thought I had worked through previously, there's like a new layer and a new depth to it now. And I'm like, oh, I guess there's still more to unpack there. I'm not fully through this. And so it's interesting that as we evolve, like certain things keep coming back up, but in different ways. And you can look at it from new eyes and a new perspective, and then get through that layer too. So I feel like I keep waking up, and I keep changing for the better and recognizing what I'm worth and what I am capable of. And it feels really good. Feels really scary, but it feels really good. Like for instance, as I am now on the West Coast, like something that I've recognized about myself in the last month or so is that it feels really nice to not have that pressure and stress. Like I feel pressure and stress, but it's not to the same degree of like being needed all the time. As a people pleaser, and a helper, and somebody that is really close to my family and my circle of friends. Like when I was living in my previous environment, even though I lived alone, I always felt like this, whether it was external or I just put that internal pressure on myself to always be on call and like drop anything at a moment's notice to go help my family or help my friends with something, even if there was no need, even if they never asked for any help. And I just always had that pressure. And yes, out here, I'm still surrounded by people that I like, know, and trust. And I am living with some great friends. But there's not that same pressure there. I don't feel compelled to jump in and execute and save the day. And I think the freedom and the awakening part is realizing that, no, I don't need to insert myself. And two, actually seeing from on the outside now that they don't need me, which they want me. It's good when I'm around, but they can do it on their own and I don't have to. I don't have to feel like I have to. I get to. So now what I'm swimming around unpacking is, if I go back to New York City, will that pressure just magically reappear? And will it be an external pressure, or will I be putting it on myself because I'm afraid that it's going to come anyway? So it's this new layer of like, I know I'm a people pleaser. I know I'm a helper. I know I love these things and I do it. And I feel I'm happy to do a lot of these things, but does that pressure need to be there? And can I approach it in a different way? So as we're talking about the layers and the evolution, that's what I'm working through right now. And it feels really crappy sometimes as I figure it out, but it also feels really freeing and liberating. So I'm happy to be able to share that with you guys today.
I can so relate with what you just said, Shell. In fact, I mean, right here, right now, is actually a pure example of when people share what they're going through or what they have gone through. It made me feel a little less alone today by you sharing what you just said, because I feel exactly the same way. My big thing is I always want to help others. Always my whole life. I don't know any other way to live. Is making sure everyone else is happy. And making sure everyone is taken care of. So I put myself first, myself last, pretty much all of my life. But I'm come to realize that if they don't need you right now, it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't make you a lesser person. It in fact shows that they are surviving on their own, which is a positive thing. They're able to be independent, which is a positive thing, but it's a no reflection that you're not worthy still. You don't have to define your worthiness by whether people need you or not. So that's something that I've been flourishing and trying to flourish through and grow through. And earlier I couldn't find the unmute, but I wanted to say thank you, Linda and Jenny, so much for the very kind words. I mean, I'm always so humbled by people coming on these rallies and just sharing their stories and experiences. And I'm so glad your experience was positive.
I'm like taking all of that in right now. Before I forget to ask it later, did we already miss the July rally, or is that coming up this weekend?
It's this Saturday.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I
Yes.
definitely want to make sure that we share that link with everybody so that anybody who wants to attend can register for that. Because I think it's, even if you're not speaking or ready to put your story out there, I think hearing other people's stories will help you evolve and grow and open your eyes to new things and different perspectives, because I've learned so much from some of the speakers that have shared their stories just by attending. And I've connected with so many wonderful people through the rallies as well. So I want to make sure we highlight that. As you were talking about what you're going through now too, and knowing your worth, it's from the opposite side of what I shared. The other day, my friend had said something to me about their potty training their daughter right now. And that can be a little bit messy. And she was like, you can be around for it, or you can just not go, like, do your thing. But if you want to help, great. If not, I totally understand. And I was like, oh, well, let's see how it goes. Cause it's like right here in the house. And she goes to work during the day. I'm working upstairs because Wi-Fi, I can work from anywhere. And my other friend, her husband, is at the office, but he's here in the morning to help take care of the daughter too. And she had said to me, so when he goes to work, after I go to work, before he leaves for work, are you helping? Are you helping him take care of her in the morning? And I was like, oh, hell no. And I just said it so matter-of-factly and and I caught myself right after, and I was like, I didn't mean it like that. He hasn't asked. And so, I recognized that. I was like, whoa, I haven't inserted myself to help more. And I was like, but if you need me, just ask and choose. And they have been really good about asking when they need help. So recognizing that shift in myself and how excited I got that, oh no, I haven't been jumping in to do it. So I just wanted to share that as well, from the opposite perspective of letting go of that pressure.
That's great. I need to now get Dorit and Stina on the rally. I'm so glad to meet new faces.
Yeah, rave reviews. So we'll have to check it out. As you were, Shell and Andrea, both talking about that magnetic pull to please other people and take care of other people, I was just reminded of a couple of different conversations and videos I've seen recently of just reminding women specifically that this is what we have been trained to do for decades, for hundreds and hundreds of years, for thousands of years, that it's not a personal flaw necessarily. It is something that is deeply cultural. It's woven into the way that things are. and just unspoken expectations and things that we do feel internally, even if they're not there externally, because it's a coping mechanism and it's a protective mechanism as well, so that we feel like we belong, we're valued, and like we matter. Because if, a couple hundred years ago, if you wanted to define yourself, it was based on the man that you were married to, or, your father who owned you. And so it's like, we have that feeling of being property, of being a thing, and things only have value when they're useful to other people. And they don't have necessarily an intrinsic value. And in our world, like, we even see nature that way. Like, we don't tend to see nature having an intrinsic value for just existing and, being beautiful and growing and thriving and like doing its thing. We look at it from a capitalist standpoint and kind of a domination standpoint. What can we do with the trees? What can we do with the water? How can we use these resources? And we forget that we're just this tiny little piece of the puzzle, or a piece of the pie, And so we get to do that on a broader scale with other humans as well. And just remember that, like, we're just a little piece of the puzzle, and we don't have to uphold the whole system. And we don't have to uphold the whole family. And a lot of times what we're doing is to help other people to feel comfortable while we feel extremely uncomfortable. And we've just learned that that's normal. It's normal for us to feel violated. It's normal for us to feel less than. It's normal for us to feel like nothing we can say or do really like makes a difference. Like, all of those things are by design of a system that undervalues our input, while at the same time functions purely because it exists. So it's the perfect way to maintain power and control, is to oppress. This is women, this is other minorities, racial groups. It's the oppression of one group to essentially make them believe that they're nothing, while building your empire on top of those people. And I just think that we're seeing a lot of people that are just done with it. They're not going to take it anymore. They're not going to stand for it. And we're speaking up, and we're asking for what we need, and we're demanding what we need, and we're having conversations to raise awareness about those things. So so just a reminder of like kind of like how archaic and generational and ancestral and historical so much of that is. So if that's something that I think we've talked about those themes several times in the group, so I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers and are also struggling with that, or working through it and learning through it. And so you're not alone, for sure. And it's something that will keep changing over generations as well. So every step that we take is just adding to that journey for the next generation. And we may not win it all, and we may not get to where we're going, but we're headed in the right direction.
Wow. Wow. I am at a loss for words right now, which hardly ever happens. Because where do I go from there? What was coming up for me as you were talking about this weight on our shoulders to like do it all and be all, and how like generational it is and intrinsic and conditioned. I was thinking about, and I know it's a story about a man, but like it still holds true here. The myth of Sisyphus, right? Like, he carried that boulder up and up, and like he felt like he had the weight of the world, and like had to keep like carrying all of that baggage, and he didn't. And how different like all of our lives could be and get to be once we realize that we can take that weight off, right? We get to leave, we get to change, and we have that freedom and that choice and that power to do so. But we have to be aware, as Andrea, you mentioned earlier, we first need that awareness to recognize the situation and what's in front of us. So yeah, wow.
That was certainly a mic drop moment. Absolutely. And Shell, I can relate what you just said too. It's interesting how most of the baggage, probably, I'm willing to bet most of the baggage that we each carry is self-imposed. And when you realize that, that is a true awakening. It's like, oh, I actually have the power to not think about that. So you take that out. Oh, that actually won't matter 5 years from now. So why is it, keeping me up at night? So that goes off. So in the end, if you keep questioning and having these conversations to yourself, you do feel and realize that you actually can feel lighter, feel freeing. And we don't realize the weights and the handcuffs that we put on ourselves to not be able to live life. I do that myself all the time. And it just takes a lot of practice to be self-aware the whole time, right?
It's definitely an ongoing struggle for me. Jenny, I see you're wanting to share, so I will.
Yes, to be self-aware, it takes practice, and it takes loving eyes towards ourselves. It takes self-compassion, because it is about knowing who we are at our core and spending that time with ourselves, with our eyes wide open to see everything and explore every part of us. And we will remain in the company where we are comfortable and loved and cared for, and where we meet, curiosity and understanding. And I know that self-compassion piece has played a huge part for me in knowing myself and becoming more aware.
Dora, shifting gears over to you a little bit, what was your moment of awakening? Like, what was your experience?
My moment of awakening was actually when I was getting out of my 7-year burnout. What can I call it? Cocoon. I didn't have any new experiences in those 7 years. I just existed. It was horrible. And I just focused on what I couldn't do and what my body wouldn't let me do and what my mind wouldn't let me do. And I just, my life was just more and more limited. And I got more and more depressed and yeah, And when I started my healing, I began the education of the Leadership by Heart Academy. And for those who are not familiar with that, it's like a coaching / hypnotherapy mushed into one. So we have a special way of dealing with things. And going through that process, I had my awakening, because a lot of the shells and a lot of those limits that I had put on myself were removed. I didn't realize they were there because I was so in that little cocoon. But going through that, the mentors and the other in my group, they kind of helped me. And for each little shell and for each little wall that was broken, I felt like a little dandelion coming up from the concrete, just ta-da, here I am, So I see that working with clients, that they know that something is stopping them, like you, Andrea, said with the shell, that you just pull back into your shell. And a lot of people aren't aware that they have a shell. They just feel limited. They just feel that they don't dare to take that because they're not good enough, or they are afraid of being judged or afraid of success. So what we do is we kind of help them see that this shell can set them free, and there's nothing dangerous about it at all, to kind of step outside of it and experience life. So the past, 5 years now, I have grown more than I did the previous 45. So yeah, it's wonderful. I'm trying new things, doing a lot of stuff that I never thought I'd do, and for each little thing, I'm like Shell said, Dorrit is doing her thing. Before we started, I do my I know and I trust, close my eyes and breathe every time, because just to get the strength from the core and to just jump in. And I've never talked about this subject before, but here you go. I mean, I'm just give it from my heart, and doing that gives me a big experience, and I feel like 100 pounds lighter when I'm done with it. So highly recommend it. So that's what I'm thinking, Shell. And I just want to say to Andrea, thank you for the invite. I would love to come to a rally. That would be awesome.
We're making connections here today. I love it. I've also gone through Dorrit's hypnosis process, and one thing that came up, among many others, was tapping into. I had this vision of one of my grandfathers coming to me, and he presented himself, and Dorrit in no way guided me to this. She just asked me curious questions to get me to relax and peel back these layers on my own. And my grandfather never spoke in this vision, but he kept pointing. We were in a kitchen, we were outside, the scene kept changing. And what he kept showing me was this child running around the kitchen. And I was seeing it from an outside perspective, that child was me. But at the same time, I was also the child in the kitchen in another part that was helping my grandmother cook and bake and do all these things. And what he was showing me, what I took away from that, was the realization that I inserted myself to help from a very, very early age. And I knew that. I know that about myself. We can go back, but core memory unlocked, if you will, of he was telling me, no, go be a kid. You can still go do these things and not have to insert yourself to help. Because he kept showing me from every angle. We were climbing a tree, we were playing in the yard. He never spoke to me. He just showed me different things. And I didn't even know that was all down there until Dorrit helped me unlock it. So when we're talking about being open to seeing things from a different perspective, new experiences, opening our mind, literally opening, Dorrit helped me open my mind. And I had never tried hypnosis before. It was a very, very interesting, totally present body experience. I was totally present in everything that was going on around me, but still very, very present in what I was seeing in front of me, through my eyes, because that's where all the energy focused. And the other thing that came to mind as Dorrit was sharing is my other grandfather. You mentioned dandelions coming up from the ground. And with my other grandfather, as a child, when I was playing, we used to go pick dandelions. And I would skip through the park and grab them, and we'd go then run home and wrap them in tinfoil, because I thought it was a bouquet of flowers to then just hold and cherish and try to just keep them alive. So I was connecting the dots as you were sharing, Dorrit, about ways that I have gotten out of my shell and remembering all that I could be. Yes, as a shell, because it is very on the nose with what we're calling it. But I did revert back into my shell, and also this is a way that I am getting out of my shell and can tap back into those things that I have lost along the way. So thank you for adding more layers and depth to my evolution of experience. Whew. This has been such a good conversation about evolution of experience. We've talked about our awakenings and what this has done to our society and culture over time, generational traumas that have impacted us, and things that we didn't even know were conditioned, and ways that we can awaken from it and keep going. I love peeling back these layers with all of you. So thank you for being part of this conversation. I do want to make sure that we drop the link for the rally so that people can attend. And I would love for everybody to come back next week for another high vibe conversation. If you're enjoying these conversations from week to week, we love having you here. We want to see more of you. And please make sure to follow all of us, connect with all of us, because we want to know your stories and be able to support you along your transformation journeys. So thank you everyone for being here today. This has been another high vibe conversation. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.